It's time for the Film Crickets with Jay Fortier, Chris Martineau, and Melanie Howerton. On this week's episode, the Crickets are joined by 94HJY's very own Steve Scarpetti. Jay, Chris, Melanie, and Steve review the 1984 American science fiction action film, The Terminator.
I'll be back.
Does it stand the test of time? Let's find out what your Film Crickets are on now.
All right. Hey, friends, and welcome to the Film Crickets. It's a podcast where we talk movies from 1980 to 1999 and decide beyond a shadow of a doubt whether or not these movies stand the test of time. I am your co-host, Jay Fortier. I'm along with my good friend and co-host, Chris Martineau.
Yellow, what's happening?
Hey. And also my good friend and co-host, Melanie Howerton.
Hey, what's up?
Hey. And we are joined today by Steve Scarpetti. How you doing, buddy?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.
We've had your partner in crime twice. We had Doug Palmieri. We had him for the unfortunate movie House, and we also had him for From Dusk Till Dawn. So it's nice to have you join us as well.
Yes, thank you.
So if we're going to go by that rationale, if we're going to go from House till Dusk to Dawn, then if he's doing, if you're doing Terminator now, I guess the next movie should be Piranha 2.
There you go.
All right.
Going the other end of the spectrum, I imagine. So the Terminator is like something. Steve, and again, thank you very much for being here with us. Was this, may I ask, was this your choice of a movie to do today?
I don't know how we decided on this, actually. I think a couple of months ago we were emailing back and forth, and I'm a huge movie fan. Always watching movies, and I love the classics. Love Terminator, and when you guys mentioned why don't we do Terminator, I was like, of course, why not? It's an American classic.
It was Steve and I, we were talking about, he gave me like a list of like 5, and I was like, let's do Terminator. It sounds great. That'll be a fun one.
It's kind of one of those things. It's hard not to gush over this movie. You know what I mean? Like it's so goddamn good. I mean, there's no way around the fact that it's good. It's just a matter of whether or not it holds up. It's something I got to bring up quick, if you don't mind, before we get too deep in Terminator. Behind Steve, he has a Return of the Jedi poster, and it looks like an original Star Wars poster, which is also fantastic. So there's something I got to bring up. They keep tweaking. This is the Star Wars fans out there. Anybody want to chime in? I want to get. I know Jay is. I don't know where Melanie stands on Star Wars, but I think I know where Steve stands. Look, they keep messing with the Star Wars movies, right? I mean, it started with George, and then Disney got it, and they mess with it again, right? So, Steve, in Revenge of the Sith, there are a lot of bad parts of Revenge of the Sith. I like the movie, but it's got problems. What's the thing that stands out the most that really goes up your spine whenever you watch Revenge of the Sith?
It's the end. It's Vader.
Yeah,
no,
right? And I absolutely knew it. He goes, oh no, where's Padme? No, he turns into Frankenstein. Are you aware that in Return of the Jedi, in the new TBS edit, when he goes to throw the Emperor down the tube, they put in another no?
Yes.
What the fuck?
So
how is that okay?
I always rewatch the Star Wars movies, the original trilogy at Christmas time. It's like a holiday tradition for me since I was a kid. And I was watching Return with my son, and that came on, and he just saw my face, and I got so freaking angry. I was like, I know! What is this? Because I actually own, you can't see it, it's out of shop, but I actually own the original VHS tapes of the original movies. I still have them. Sure. And I still have a VHS player simply because of those, because they're unaltered. They have not been messed around by George. They still work, and they're the only ones in existence that you can watch without having all the nonsense that he put in there.
Right. I don't like everyone. He knows, and Disney knows, everyone hates that. Everyone hated no, and you double down on no. I don't.
Sticking it
why?
To us. He's sticking it to us.
That's what I mean. Like the best part about is Vader is you don't know what he's thinking. So you don't know what's going on in his mind when he goes and throws the Emperor in the tube. So you can project anything you want onto a blank slate. But when you tell us no, we know what he's thinking, and that's bullshit. Now, onto the Terminator. Thank you, Steve, and I'm glad that you picked it up right away. So look, let's get on to Cameron. Cameron is obviously
like Melanie, I don't know. I haven't seen that part.
Sorry, well, I don't want to waste Steve's time. We want to roll. So look, Cameron is obviously hands-on. He's an auteur. That man can make 5 Avatar movies if he wants to. Oh, wait, he is. So, the sequel no one was waiting for, but $2 billion later, everyone saw it. So Cameron also, even though he could tweak all his movies, he'd probably figure out a way. He'd break into the Library of Congress if he wanted to. He is not messing around with Terminator. And Terminator obviously looks dated, right? So let's get into Terminator. Obviously, right? So let's get into it with Terminator. So first of all, I think it's pretty safe to say we've all seen it on VHS. Does anybody in here see it in the theater when it came out?
I don't remember.
Nobody? It was 84.
I was 5.
You did? Yeah.
No, probably not.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was 10.
Yeah, 10.
You do? Go ahead, Jay.
I have a story.
Hit it.
I was just exiting the 7th grade, and my parents took me to the Quaker Drive-In, and that was in Uxbridge, Massachusetts.
Yep.
And that the original reason we were going was for my dad to see Sudden Impact, and Terminator happened to be the first movie that came on.
Wow.
And every time we went, we always had my mom would always bring a pillow, and it was like instant, instant snore fest. I'd always fall asleep. So I made it through Terminator, and I watched him say, "Go ahead, make my day," and then gone. I was done. So I never saw Sudden Impact. I don't think I've ever even seen it to this day. So yeah, I remember seeing that in the drive-in, not fully sure of what I was going to see. So that was really talk about a pleasant surprise. If you think about it, you're not expecting to see this movie, and it's like, holy crap, this is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So it was quite awesome.
Cool.
So yeah.
So usually we do a round table, but I think it's pretty much everyone had it in a high rotation. Melanie, have you seen it a bunch of times?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we all have, and we all have kind of like a soft spot for it because it's just fantastic. So it's not about that, but let's talk about the film. So
you want to get into the IMDb thing?
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah, let's do that. Sorry. So IMDb is going to try to tell us what's going on with this movie in one sentence. So now we bring about the IMDb breakdown. Let's see if they nail it. So here we go. The Terminator came out in 1984. It's rated R. Coming at 1 hour and 47 minutes. And the one sentence breakdown is, a human soldier is sent from 2029. Sorry. A human soldier is sent from 2029 to 1984 to stop an almost indestructible cyborg-killing machine sent from the same year, which has been programmed to execute a young woman whose unborn son is the key to humanity's future salvation. Directed by James Cameron. Written by James Cameron, Gale Ann Hurd, and William Wisher, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Austrian for Black Plowman, as the Terminator, Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor, Michael Biehn, Kyle Reese, Paul Winfield as Traxler, the inimitable Lance Henriksen, who's fantastic, he's always looked 98 years old. Whether Dick Miller is in this movie, Dick Miller, and you cannot forget Bill Paxton doing that Bill Paxton thing. So that's our movie. So let's do this. Here's the thing: is this movie? I've heard this movie classified as a horror movie.
I have stuff on that.
All right. So what? Let's get our take here. Is Terminator? We understand that it's great. It's a classic. It is incomparable. But is it a horror movie, Steve?
I say yes, but only because I know for a fact, and I love John Carpenter. I love Halloween. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And I know that was an inspiration for Cameron.
Yeah.
He said he liked the slasher feel and the way it kind of moved through the plot, and he was using that. So I call it a sci-fi slasher is what I call it.
Sure. It's that unstoppable. He's a Jason Voorhees. He's a Michael Myers. He's certainly, you never know when he's going to pop up, under what conditions, and he can't be stopped, right? So, except he's not supernatural, he's a robot. So, which is, I mean, think about that sentence. He's not supernatural. He's a robot. He's a robot, to quote SpongeBob. Melanie, did you have some stuff on the horror movie
do,
aspect of this
because
film?
I have the kind of what he was saying. So he was comparing it to Halloween, which is everyone here, but you will know they know it's my favorite movie. But it says basically it was really supposed to be like a slasher film. If you kind of minus out the coming from the future and the fact that he's a robot, it's an unstoppable killer who silently stalks an innocent woman, killing all of her loved ones until he's killed off in some creative way. Sarah Connor is the movie's final girl who's strong enough to outsmart the killer. And the only one to make it out in the end. And it's always some sort of a final showdown where the girl's in some enclosed, isolated place where nobody can help her, crawling through little tight spaces. And then it also says that, and in fact, in Halloween 2, he was blown up and this guy was blown up. And then also it says, per tradition, a character who always says he will come back usually dies in the end.
Yep,
and then it
true.
says, and despite the killer being blown up, he does return for more sequels. And then it says, usually heroes don't really have access to real weapons and things in the movies, or even like guns. Like the fact that she's running around with a gun was kind of opposite of that. And it says that because she's and he's using firearms, which is really an odd thing for a slasher movie. That doesn't usually happen. It's usually a knife or whatever. And then Kyle Reese is one of the few boyfriends who dies trying to protect the final girl, but because of his own intervention, not rarely by the hands of the killer. And Sarah Connor is one of the only final girls to have sex in the movie and make it out alive.
Valid point. Valid point.
Yeah.
That's true.
I had to write it
true.
down because, it was from Halloween,
And poor Michael Biehn, who plays Kyle Reese, this guy's always getting injured. He's injured at the end of this movie. He's injured at the end of Aliens. He's being carted around always being dragged around by the final girl. But through the whole movie, he's tough until the chips come down and then the females take over, which I think is great. I mean, in a lot of Cameron movies, you have this kind of, this slant where the guys seem in charge, but at the end they're not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They just kind of go ahead.
Michael Biehn, he played a character who had the shakes in The Abyss. He had that weird syndrome where, you go underwater and you can't handle the pressure.
He's never at full strength. He never is.
Plus he had that bullet in his head at the end of Tombstone.
Oh yeah, it's true. Yeah,
right, yeah.
that
also
really
the second
kind of
time that Arnold Schwarzenegger got to punch Bill Paxton in the face in a movie.
That's
True Lies, remember?
True Lies, yeah.
I loved him in True Lies. He was so funny, Bill Paxton.
So here's the thing. Obviously, this movie it's ridiculous. I mean, the idea is absolutely out of control. I mean, it's time travel to upend the space-time continuum, which can happen. We're never going to get into that because you can't even say. So, Steve, again, being a movie fan, I don't know how many times previous to this, except maybe The Time Machine, where someone tried to alter the timeline. Can you think of an example?
No, I can't. No. And
Right.
aren't we always referencing either Terminator or Back to the Future with every single time travel movie since, right?
Don't they mention either one or both in Endgame
Yes.
when they're trying to explain the time heist? Don't they mention?
Okay.
I know they mention Back to the Future.
Absolutely,
But
yes.
maybe,
Guys,
yeah.
real quick, I got something for you.
What?
Even if you don't know the movie, I'm just gonna set you up. Steve, have you seen Hot Tub Time Machine?
Oh,
Oh,
God.
yes.
He always
Yes,
loves me. I had
classic.
to watch this thing.
Love
Right.
that.
Okay, so my two co-hosts have not seen it yet. So Craig Robinson, you guys know who Craig Robinson is?
Yes.
All right, so in
No.
this scene, he's an African-American actor, very funny. He does the Pizza Hut commercials lately, and he's in a lot of the Judd Apatow movies. Anyways, to set this up, I'm going to tell you, he just was doing a big pile of cocaine. So when you hear him scream, and he gets up and he's got a big face full of coke when he's saying all this stuff. Okay, here's a clip from that movie. Here we go.
Time is not linear. We just perceive it that way.
Ah! Like the Terminator. It's cyclical, right? the machines send Schwarzenegger back to kill Sarah Connor so that John Connor could never be born. But if John Connor don't send Michael Biehn back to protect her, then they never fuck, and John Connor ain't born in the first place.
Checks out.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's awesome. That's true.
I thought about that. I was like, man, we gotta fucking. I gotta.
That's true. But guys, if in the time travel scenario, I mean, at this point we haven't. You could justify this movie now by saying it's multiple timelines and that it's the multiverse, and like suddenly we're all like skilled with the idea of the multiverse. However, I gotta tell you, so we have this time travel machine. Oh yeah, I'm not bagging on the movie. I just have to point out some funny stuff. You can't come back with clothes, which, you know, some fine booty on those guys. Just saying, like they work out. They did not skip glute day. But all I'm saying is that they can't come back with clothes because they're inorganic. However, Schwarzenegger is a walking inorganic machine. I don't understand why that doesn't work, but whatever. Look, if it gives me a chance to see steamy naked Arnold Schwarzenegger, that's fine. But I understand why they do it, because if you've got nothing on you, you're vulnerable, right? That's why that happens. Like that's why they put these, you know, in these slasher movies. It's always in the shower. One, A, teenage boys want to go see it, and B, you're vulnerable. You've got nothing, literally nothing. However, the best part of that is that Schwarzenegger obviously doesn't care. He's not vulnerable. He's made of metal. So when we see Arnold's first come out, now I'm going to ask everybody about this. When you see Arnold walk around, like what is it that you feel when you see him doing his thing, his Terminator thing? I don't mean killing people. I mean just walking around. Like what's the first thing that comes to mind?
He looks amazing.
True. We've already established that he's a yummy snack. However, it's like what do you think of?
Killing machine. I mean, he just looks so badass.
I know, right?
We talked about like, you know, it's an old movie, but I've watched it lately, and I still think it holds up very well. Not as well as Terminator 2, of course, but something about that low budgetness about it kind of made them. It's almost like Lucas with Star Wars, where he didn't have all the money to make his epic space opera with all the nooks and crannies. Instead, Cameron had to find these little ways to make it work, and the soundtrack and everything, and the low light at night in LA. I think it works with the movie, you know?
Sure.
And it makes him look so badass, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He does. He does look amazing, and he wasn't even supposed to have that role. He was supposed to be Reese.
Yep.
And,
can you imagine?
Yeah, I know, not at all. And I guess he wanted Reese to be more like smaller kind of guy, more sensitive looking, and Arnold didn't want to play that role. He didn't want to be a villain, and his agent kept telling him, "Don't be the villain." But I guess Cameron said he loved it. It wasn't just his body, because you kind of only see that one time, but he loved his face. He saw his face and he was like, "You are a machine. You need to play this role. You just look like a machine," and convinced him to do it. And I think we're friends forever after this movie.
I think Arnold in Arnold's early days, before he decided how to act, was you got a lot out of him if you didn't ask him to do a lot. Like Conan the Barbarian, he's fine in. Like he's not great, but you didn't ask him to do a lot. And the times that you did ask him to act at the end, you weren't asking for a lot of depth. You just said say this, and he said it. And this is another example. Like if you're not asking to do a lot, but what you're asking him to do, he's very good at. My point is that he's a killing machine, but I always think when I watched it this time, I like to think about Terminator 2, which I'd like to talk 2 minutes on it in a little bit, but because it's the Terminator episode. But they talked about the synthetic, the metal man Terminator in that one.
I love that.
And when the actor asked Cameron for his, what's my motivation, he just said to him, "You're a shark." Like that's the look that's in your eyes. You're a shark. You're just on a mission. And I'm trying to think if Schwarzenegger fits the same animal type. Is he a shark, or is he too big to be is he not sleek enough to be a shark? So I guess this is like a Barbara Walters situation. If you were a tree, what tree would you be? If you were an animal, if Terminator were an animal, what animal would Terminator be? Thoughts?
I think he's more like a Godzilla or a King Kong.
Okay.
He's
all right.
a big monster guy that is just clumsy but killing and destroying everything in his path, I don't think he's you're right. I think the T-1000 is such a sleek animal if he's being compared to an animal like a shark. So I think he's more of a big indestructible, no nonsense kind of monster, you know?
Yeah, it's tough to say because you want to say like, yes, it's something that if you saw, it's immediately like, I'm screwed. You can't say a bull. You can't. It's just interesting to me that, like, I wonder what direction Arnold got rather than nothing will stop you. It doesn't. And the great part about about him in that movie is that correct me if I'm wrong, even when he doesn't have weapons, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Even
if he doesn't have an oil truck. It just doesn't matter. And Reese says it. He's like, he will not stop. He will never stop. Ever, ever, ever. Mm-hmm. And that sets it up from the beginning, and you never shake it. And obviously they got the right actor for the role.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Sorry, unless you have another thing, I have something I want to add. Okay, the special effects. The special effects.
Oh, boy.
You know I'm bad with that. You know that's, like, important to me.
All right, so special effects. Okay, sometimes they're piss poor. And sometimes, but for the time, now that's what I want to ask. When I watch this on video, and they go from the scene where he cuts his eye open because it's damaged, right?
Yeah.
And then they cut to the obvious robotic head that is not Arnold Schwarzenegger at all. When I was young, it didn't even dawn on me that looked shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
And now it does.
Yeah.
So the question I have for you is, when you first saw this, when you were, I assume, younger, did it even dawn on you that looked terrible?
I don't think so.
No. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Like it's so like,
because that was state of the art back then. It took him.
Okay.
It took them 6 months to make that head. Freaking 6 months. So that was state of the art. They said back then. Just like when we were talking about when we watched Poltergeist and that guy's pulling off his face in the mirror, and it just reminded us so much of the Terminator doing that with his eyes, and it looks almost exactly the same. And I think what makes it look so bad is the stop and the go motion thing that they're doing. It that just makes it look bad. Even when the robot was walking at the end, it's because it's that stop.
Yeah.
You know? It's like a Rudolph, you know what I mean? Like the Rudolph.
Yeah.
But
stop motion's having a comeback.
Yeah.
Full tip in.
Listen, I
Mad
gotta
God
tell
and
you,
all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but when Sam the Snowman went, "Fuck you, asshole," that was pretty, it was mind blowing.
That's true.
Really affects you when you're a child. No, but like when I was watching that as a kid, I think we were all probably distracted about the fact. Wait a minute. He's going towards his eyeball.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
He's pulling his eye out. Oh, he's dropping it in the sink. So I think we were kind of like more distracted on the idea of that than like, oh man, that don't look like him. And it didn't look as bad later when he was in the truck. And he turns and he's got the half a eye.
Oh yeah, I think it looks really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That looked a lot better than when the stuff that was on top of the skeleton, and he's like messing with that. It's like his face is a lot puffier. It just doesn't stick well. It's pretty good. Yeah.
I do remember watching it. Oh, sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
No, go, Melanie.
I was gonna say I do remember watching it. I don't remember when it was. It could have been like a few months ago. And I remember thinking, God, this looks bad. I don't remember it looking this bad. Because like you said, back when we watched it before, it looked really good. But now I just thought it was very dark and very grainy. And just like the filming, and again, I'm going to compare it to Poltergeist because, I love that movie. But when I watched Poltergeist, there was some shitty, special effects in it. But the actual film of the movie, the actual film to me still looked pretty crystal clear. And this didn't. It looked like it was very poor quality film. But I watched it just the other night, and it wasn't as bad as I thought that I remembered it was a few months ago. I was like, oh, it's not. Yep. So I was expecting it to be super bad, and I was like, no, it's not really not. It's really not that bad. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It looked better than I remembered it being a few months ago when I watched it.
So have we become? And I think as Steve has the old posters in the back, have we become people that? It looked good back in the day because everything wasn't in high def. So you can't see the things that look terrible.
Yeah.
Right? And now, we're 40 years plus removed, I guess, from this movie. 40 years, 80, yeah, do the quick math, right? So we're 40 years removed from this movie. It looked great then, probably because things weren't in high def. And then as years go by, you go, oh, God, that looks crappy. And now because everything's CG and we see this again... are we now nostalgic that it looks terrible? Is that part of the equation? I ask you.
I say yes.
All right.
I just watched the Industrial Light and Magic documentary on Disney Plus,
I watched that as well.
Oh, isn't it fantastic?
It's a good one, yep.
But I like how they end on the note that you can have both CGI and practical, because I think that for the last couple of years we've gotten away from that. The Mandalorian's a great example of having both in it. I hated, we talked about the prequels for Star Wars. I hated the prequels mostly because of that. Everything looked too clean. It looked too nice.
I get what you're saying.
That's why I like Halloween and a couple of the 70s films. Like I know, Jay, you said you didn't like Sudden Impact, but I love those Dirty Harry movies because they have that 70s look to them. They just look.
No, I just didn't see it.
Grainy. Well, you gotta check it out. Give it another chance.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh no, it's a matter of like, do you ever have this thing where you go, oh yeah, I gotta see that.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I gotta see that.
It sits in your DVR.
And then like
tomorrow night.
Oh yeah, when it hits the bottom of the DVR and then it disappears, you're like, well, I guess it wasn't meant to be.
I get it.
But
oh man,
it's like I was watching. I watched Aliens, which is so good. But like I remember it being like when I saw Aliens, I'm like, wow, that was only 3 years removed from this movie or so.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, it's like light years better in special effects. And then I watched it, and there were like clips of the jump ship like landing on the planet. I'm like, oh my god, that's hysterically terrible. It's obviously like a G.I. Joe model, like with like a back screen that it's not CG, they just put it after. And I'm like, this is terrible. I'm like, I think I watched it and I'm like, oh, bless their hearts. Oh, they're trying so hard, but it's still great. Don't get me wrong, it's a great movie. Okay, so I guess next thing we're focused again on. We haven't even talked about Sarah Connor yet. Let's talk about Sarah Connor. And let's talk about Sarah Connor in terms of her role and her role as a James Cameron heroine. And basically the model is, and Cameron's so good at this, like he gives us something that we can identify with, even if we can't identify with it. She starts out with basically nothing, and then with basically no, road to success. Has ice cream dumped in her pocket at a diner, no men in her life. She has to listen to her friends having sex, rather than her indeed having sex. And, out of nowhere, literally from the future. Oh, by the way, you have to save humanity. And now he sets us up. Now she has to become the character, right? She has to become that thing, which has to happen. So whether she wants to or not, you must become this character because you are now forced to. And are you going to rise to the occasion? Which she obviously does. Same thing happens in Aliens. Like Sigourney Weaver at the beginning of Aliens does not want to be in an action movie. You can tell. She's like, I just want to go. I'll go, but I'll advise. I don't want to do this. And then the men screw it up. She's like, fine, I'll do this. Same thing happens with Rose at the end. Like, I'm taking the matters in my own hand. I don't want to do this. I'm gonna do this. And so I don't know. Is that way off base? Is that Cameron as a good director? Is he just hitting the same thing over and over again? Or it's like it's inevitable. You must do this. Or I don't know. Let's expound on that and then maybe tie it into Terminator 2. I don't know. Tell me what you think.
I'm not really sure. I never looked at it like that. But you're right. He does take the female characters and do that. I'm not sure. I'm going to think about it. That's you gave me a lot to think about,
Yeah, I guess because they have to kind of grow into their role because she was seeing that everybody was getting killed and it was a matter of survival. And I think that's what it is, like that the person has to kind of wake up and realize this is what they have to become to survive. I don't know.
And Cameron does this thing. It's ballsy. He gives us the entire story during a car chase with Reese. Like he's giving her so much exposition in a racing car shooting a shotgun. How beautiful is that? Because if you do that in another movie, they're going to sit down in a hut that's protected and he's going to tell her everything. But he can't because the clock is ticking. This thing's coming after us. You have to know what's going on right now. And we're in a moving car. I'm half naked in a trench coat with a shotgun. And here we go. Well, yeah.
Before we get too far, I want to add to that.
Yeah.
So he arrived naked, and whose pair of pants did he take?
I think the homeless guy in the alleyway.
A homeless drunk. Now, I want to just take a guess.
God, I never thought of that.
I'm going to take a guess. those pants must fucking reek. Like there's no way they don't smell. Yeah. Like because you're such a drunk that you are choosing an alley to drink. You know, right? There's Mister. You see a light, and it's like apparently he came from the South. And like, boy, this guy is. There's no way they're not stinky pants. And
we don't see him change.
You know, when you're in the department store, when you're grabbing a trench coat, you're grabbing shoes, look for a pair of pants.
You don't see him change later in the movie either, so that's
good
true
God.
love right there, you know?
Yeah, and then they had sex.
No, there was a shower. Wasn't there a shower previous?
Was there a shower prior?
Oh, okay.
You showered prior? Yeah. Wash that stink. Wash that drunk off your body, please.
Oh God, that's so gross.
All right, so
heat and then burn off.
Good Lord.
That's terrible.
Okay, but did anybody else think that like that part you were talking about, Chris, and the truck where he's telling her everything? Okay, 2 minutes before she thought, not 2 minutes, but right before that she thought he was crazy. Then they go to the police station and the police are telling her that yes, he's crazy. But I also thought it was weird that she was like, is he crazy? Why do you gotta ask someone if they think that he's crazy? Anyways, they were like, yeah, he's a Looney Tune. So the only thing that's happened since then is that Arnold Schwarzenegger has come into the police station and killed the police. But she already knew about Arnold Schwarzenegger trying to kill her, and she was already trying to run away. So now why all of a sudden does she believe everything that he's saying? I thought that was a little quick. I don't know. Maybe because
it's all so new. You know what I mean? Like you're back and forth between everything that's happening. Mm-hmm. We're chilling with our popcorn. We're relaxed. So we're watching that going, what the hell is she worried about him for? She should be, I think in the matter of just pure panic, you're going to be tugged in every direction and probably jump on that side. Like, oh, really? He is nuts? Okay, maybe I shouldn't have trusted him. So I think it's more anxiety than it is, like I said, we're all chilling, relaxing, watching the movie, able to analyze it. So I think that's probably it.
What's interesting about, and I think talking about the animal aspect of directing his actors, Arnold Schwarzenegger, we know he's bad, and I'm not sticking up for this guy that killed a bunch of innocent people. Okay, so first of all, but he's bad, but he's not evil. He's just doing his programming.
Right, you're right.
Like the same way that a lion isn't evil. It's just doing what it's supposed to do. Yes, gazelles are cute, but guess what? They're lunch. And they're not evil. They're just doing what they got to do. They're racing down these other cute animals. Yeah. And Arnold is not, look, this is my programming. This is what I have to do. This is an interesting take, because unlike Michael Myers and unlike Jason Voorhees, who are just evil, he's not necessarily evil. He's just really good at what he does. You don't want to root for him, but you can't really, you can be afraid of him, but you can't really say he's bad. Like he's not, he's bad. He's not evil. You know what I mean?
One question.
Yeah.
The computers, the AIs that became self-aware.
Yeah.
Did they start the shit? Or because they're the ones who created the Terminator.
They actually did start everything. They start basically
so
Sarah Connor started everything. The whole reason why the Terminator was actually created was kind of their fault, if you kind of look at it in that way, because I guess there was a part that was supposed to be that Cameron wanted in there was she keeps saying it doesn't matter if we kill him because they're just going to keep sending more of them. So this was cut out of it. And so she tries to convince Reese to go to the factory that was originally going to end up creating the Terminator. She figures if we blow up the factory, then they can't create them. So it's no mistake that they end up in this factory because there was cut out parts. So basically at the end,
Terminator 2.
Yes, that's why he kept it for that on purpose, because it's basically their entire fault. This company wasn't even doing that yet. They brought this Terminator into that company, crushed him in that machine, and someone that worked there found him and took the microchip out of him and started trying to create this thing. And that is why he was created to begin with. There you have your part 2.
So nerdy. That's so nerdy, Melanie. The fact that you brought all that up is the nerdiest thing I've heard.
I'm sorry.
Great
That's
actor
okay.
Joe Morgan. He was the one that did that in part 2.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Joe Morgan. Hey, you know what? By the way, if you guys ever find yourself in that you sell firearms, don't let them load it in front of you.
No shit, really.
That's really
insane.
Terrible idea.
Yeah.
You know? Oh yeah, you're not supposed to do that. Nope, no, you just don't bring the bullets out at all. I don't know.
Yeah, like they're sitting on the counter. They're sitting right there.
You should really lock those up. 2 parts I want to bring up. Obviously, we saw this on video. We're all kind of young. I got to tell you, this movie also scarred me because it was the first film that I watched a sex scene with my parents.
Oh God!
And boy, oh boy, like you didn't know it's coming, and then suddenly it comes up, and you want to just sink into the corner of the couch, and like, oh my God, because you're 10. You're 10.
As you're telling the story, he had a cuckoo clock going off.
Yes.
I heard it.
That's funny.
You're telling a story about how your parents you were watching a sexy with your parents, and I boop, 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 boop. And I'm like, I'm not pressing any buttons. I didn't do any sound effects.
You're welcome.
No.
Funny.
That
was great timing.
That's production value right there. I gotta tell you.
See, that was practical. That was a practical
Yes.
effect.
Practical, yes. But in reflection, so you guys saw that you probably, I don't know, again, we were young, and we're probably like, wow, that's the most graphic thing I've ever seen. And if you watched it now, it's really not.
I was in a car with my parents.
Yeah, no. There you go.
Watching it at the drive-in.
No, I'm just like now it's fairly tame.
Oh, and she seemed really into it too. Not really.
Yeah.
She was like listening to music.
Yeah.
I ended up real quick. I watched the edited version last night, so like I got
It was not in there?
whatsoever.
Okay.
Not a lot of blood either. So yeah, well, it was free, and I didn't have to hunt my DVD down. So I was like, that's all right.
Good
See,
enough. Anybody?
I saw the second one first before I watched the original. That's what turned me on to the original. I think when did the second one come out? 91? Yeah, 91.
91. Yeah.
And by
91.
that point, so my dad, there was a point in my dad's life where my mother didn't want to go see any R-rated movies with him anymore. And one night they're talking about it, and we're in the kitchen, and he looked down, and he went, "He's old enough. He can go to these movies." So Schwarzenegger was both my first 2 R-rated movies. My first R-rated movie at home was Commando. My first in the theater was Raw Deal. So
my God.
when Terminator 2 came out, I was already watching Seagal movies and Van Damme. I think I was 12 years old when the second one came out. So that was how so when I went back and watched it, I already saw the action and all the other stuff, you know?
All right, cool.
Nice.
Hey, before we get to whatever, there's something I want to bring up, and I feel like I gotta expunge this, and I want to know if this is a hot take. Now, Steve, you just said you saw 2 first, then you saw 1. Mm-hmm. Jason and Melanie, did you see 1 and then 2?
Yes.
Yeah, so I said in theater.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I know. I'm just establishing. So Steve, see
I had
if you
to
can
see
chime
one
in
first.
with me on this one because I watched Terminator a lot. I watched it on a pirated video cassette until Terminator 2 came out. I used to watch it over and over again because violence and robots and all kinds of shit. I was into it, right? Okay, and Schwarzenegger is a badass, and I have a poster of Terminator, like the cover of the video cassette, in my room. Terminator 2 comes out. Now, there's no internet. I don't really know what the storyline of Terminator is going to be about. And it's the only movie I've ever been to that was sold out.
Wow.
It was in Woonsocket, right? It was at the Diamond Hill. Totally sold out. And I went to it, and it's going to be awesome. And I love T-1000. I thought it was a great idea, obviously. But when Arnold says, I won't kill anybody, I'm going to be good, I was kind of crestfallen. I was actually a little disappointed by that he wasn't going to be bad. And am I the only one that was a little disappointed? I like 1 more than 2 because I thought that was kind of cheap. He's going to be good now? This is bullshit.
But then he starts shooting people in the legs, and he's like, "Oh, he'll live. Don't worry. That's great."
No, I know, but I'm just like, come on. All right,
I was just watching part 2 for a little while today, and there's a point where the 2 gym rats are like around the corner, and Edward Furlong asks for help, and they come over and help like for a second, and then he realizes he can control Arnold, so he goes, kick his ass, right? And he grabs him, throws him, like first off, grabs him by the hair, picks him up by the scalp, and then puts him on, one of them on the hood of the car and is about to blow his brains out.
Mm-hmm.
John Connor says, "No, you can't go around killing people." And he said, "I have to do everything you tell me."
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that he was instructed by John to not kill people and to be good. No, I'm saying he had no choice.
He's just saying he was disappointed in the fact that he wasn't even.
But he didn't come back and go, "I want to be good."
I know that.
Like he didn't
I was disappointed that he wasn't the villain, even though I knew there was this other guy. I'm like,
He was in the trailer.
He's not the villain? Yeah, I know, but I didn't know what was going to happen with that. There was no internet. There was no leaking as to what was going to happen. I thought maybe it was going to be a double front against whatever. And I'm like, this is kind of bullshit. And I know it's a good movie. It is a better movie than one. I just like one more for that reason.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can see what you mean by that. Like,
no, I like
most sequels are more of the first thing, right? So
yeah,
that's what you're expecting.
Yeah, just give me more Terminators that are all bad.
Probably because he at that point was a bigger actor now, and a lot more loved.
I know, and that's what I was thinking in 11th grade.
And they wanted him to be the hero though, because they were like, no man, everybody they love him. They don't want to root against him.
I know. I'm not saying it's better. It's a better movie. I was kind of disappointed. That's all. That's all I'm getting at.
This therapy session has been brought to you by Terminator 2.
It's time for TMI with Melanie.
Listen to this. I am in the bathroom right before the movie starts. And I'm in the stall, and there's no toilet paper.
Mine are at home in a display case above my bed.
TMI, my friends.
TMI? Too much information.
Don't go there, but that's lame.
Now, here's Melanie with your timeless movie info.
All right, Melanie.
All right.
Make it like part 2. A lot better.
All right. The budget was $6.4 million, and it made $78.3 million. Okay. One thing, Cameron, he didn't have much money when he first started, trying to make this. So he was trying to get around permits. So I guess he did this in a few different movies, not just this one. But instead of having to wait for a permit and pay for permits and all these things to try to shoot in certain areas, he would just call the actors at 1 or 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and be like, show up at this place right now and cost them. We got to shoot this real quick. And then we got to get out of here before police or anybody would come. So apparently he was kind of known for doing that, and he started doing it, making this movie. Arnold worked with guns every day for an entire month to prepare for this role. He was supposed to be able to kind of go back and forth between his left and his right arm. And he did this stripping weapons, reassembling them, blindfolded until the motions were completely automatic, like a machine. So he did not have to look down when he was trying to reload or anything. And he was so good at it that a magazine, he practiced all these different moves up to at least 50 times. He did this for the longest time. But I guess there's a magazine called Soldier of Fortune, and they kind of bash movies for inaccurate, gunfire or holding your guns or whatever. And they actually, this was one of the only things that they had said, man, that's completely realistic how he's doing it. Because he was really doing it. He just trained himself so good that he didn't have to look at it.
I'm glad the NRA is happy.
Yeah.
All right.
And then Arnold tried to stay away from Linda and Michael, which is Reese, during the entire time he was filming because he was trying to kill them, so he didn't want to make connections with them. Kind of like Jason was doing, if you remember, on Friday the 13th. He did the same thing. Hamilton and Cameron got married later on and then got divorced. I also found out she had a twin sister that died. I didn't know she had a twin sister. I forgot.
Yes.
I don't know.
She was in Terminator 2. Wow.
Oh, was she?
Yeah,
right.
She played
the person doing the surgery.
Yep. Oh my God.
In the mirror.
Oh. All right. So Arnold went to a restaurant all dressed up. He completely forgot he wanted to go out for lunch, and he forgot that he had the makeup on that was showing the exposed jaw and the burned flesh.
Pardon my leprosy.
Yeah, exactly.
Steroids affects your memory too, I guess. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So that Club Technor took 2 weeks to build and 2 hours to destroy. And apparently a lot of people thought it was real during filming because they had to keep turning them away. This is not a real club.
Nice.
It's a jewelry store now.
We love EDM.
Yeah. Apparently Arnold had a prior commitment to Conan. in '84 during the kind of beginning of making this. So there was 9 months where Cameron had to kind of stop making this movie and kind of wait for Arnold to be done with Conan. So at the time, he was asked to write a script, which became Alien, or Aliens, I should say. And he also was asked to write a script for Rambo, First Blood Part 2. And he was also trying to do more work on the script of the Terminator. So he had 3 desks with all the 3 different scripts, and he went back and forth every single night and drank tons of coffee, trying to stay up and write all this stuff during that 9 months. Okay. Oh my God. O.J. Simpson was considered for the Terminator, but the producers feared that he was too nice to be taken seriously as a cold-blooded killer.
Oops.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Nice.
They were dead wrong.
And then OJ jumps back from the future and says, "You're all wrong." Okay, sorry.
Yeah, you're all wrong.
Where are my gloves?
And I'm going to look for the real killer.
Yeah, where are my gloves?
Yeah,
All right.
exactly. Okay, so James, this is cool. So apparently when James Cameron was doing Piranha 2 in Rome, he got fired, and he spent all of his last money getting there, flying to Rome. So he was super poor and did not have proper money for proper food, and he became very sick, and he had a big fever. And that's when he had the nightmare of the metal exoskeleton emerging from flames and dragging itself down the street. So he took that and kind of wrote the script for Terminator backwards. He wanted to do like a time travel thing, but he couldn't afford it. And that's why they had that horrible special effects in the beginning and flashbacks showing, yeah, you're from the future. Because it was cheaper to do it that way. Okay, let's see.
It doesn't look like a $6 million movie. It looks far more expensive than that. It really does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Even as it looks shitty now, but still.
Yeah,
All right, sorry, Mel, go.
Right. Okay, James Cameron's original idea was to have Skynet sending 2 Terminators back in time. The first one, the cyborg, was going to be defeated by a human, and then the second one was going to be, Arnold. And then the Resistance actually sent 2 men. One was going to die during time travel, and the other one was supposed to be the liquid metal guy. But he ended up saving that for Terminator 2 for a couple of reasons. Let's see. Arnold's famous line, I'll be back, was originally scripted as I'll come back. And then Arnold actually wanted it to be I will come back because he thought it sounded more robotic. And apparently Cameron was like, shut up, I'm not telling you how to act, don't tell me how to write. He was right.
No, he's not a real nice guy, James.
Really?
He's not a nice guy.
Oh, yeah.
He's not a nice
lot
guy.
of reputation, yeah.
Oh, no.
Ed Harris refuses to talk about The Abyss to this day.
Really?
Yeah, he's not a very good guy.
Okay. And the original script, too, Sarah Connor was supposed to have some sort of an old figure skating injury that was fixed with some surgical pins. So every single time that Arnold was supposed to kill somebody, he was going to rip a piece of their leg open to check for those pins. But apparently the leg actually didn't get broken until a fight with the Terminator. Because I guess Skynet knew that she had a broken something or other, but they didn't know when it happened. So he was like kind of looking for an injury that hadn't happened yet, but they cut that whole thing out.
Cool.
All right.
Good idea.
Oh, Arnold had his eyebrows insured because he did not want to shave them off for the scene that he had to go through the fire because he was supposed to look like he was burnt and singed. He was so upset about it that he insured his eyebrows because he was in fear that they might not grow back. And he also, it's down here.
Can you imagine that conversation?
Yeah. He was sued by the people from the Outer Limits because they said that he took script from them and they thought it was plagiarized. He wanted to fight them in court, but he could not afford it, and he was kind of forced to, settle to make a settlement.
And now he's richer than Brinks.
Yeah. Sarah Connor was supposed to be 18 years old at the time. Did anybody think she looked like she was 18? Because I did not think she looked like
Not even close.
Not at all.
Nope.
She was actually 28, and she does look like she's, to me, more in the 20s or something.
Yes, 100%.
All right. Oh, she also broke her ankle right before the production, and they had to tape it every single day so that she could do her running around, and she spent most of the whole movie in just shooting pain. Okay. So, when it was released in Poland, it was called The Electric Murderer. You know how they changed,
Nice.
So, because apparently...
That's what he is.
Yeah. apparently the word a Terminator in Poland at the time in the 80s was called, and it was basically the meaning of an apprentice. And so by the time that Terminator 2 came out, they didn't have to change it because everybody kind of knew what the Terminator meant by then and kind of recognized Arnold as the Terminator. So they didn't have to change it for part 2. The metal exoskeleton was extremely heavy, and they learned the hard way that it looked realistic, but it was not practical to be carrying around this huge-ass metal heavy thing. Terminator's motorcycle is displayed in the restaurant, Arnold's restaurant at Planet Hollywood. And most of the car chase scenes were shot at normal speed, and they were kind of slightly sped up, but they had other cars that were kind of going near them with like rotating lights to try to make it appear like they were going faster. Oh, this is cute. So you know how at the end Reese is put in a body bag? It was not a body bag. It was like, he couldn't afford it. So James Cameron put him in a suit bag that was his own.
Nice.
It was a suit bag.
Looks like it.
And then this is another cheap thing that they did. I guess apparently when they were making this movie, there was some sort of like a big fly scare at the time. And so they were spraying tons of bug spray constantly. And it made it look kind of foggy. So they were like, oh, let's use that for fog. So every time you see fog in the movie, it's bug spray. And every time you see smoke in the movie, it's cigarette smoke. Okay. Oh, the scene where he throws a grenade underneath one of the Skynet's machines in the future. It took 26 times for him to get that right for Reese to do that. And he was also, he wanted the Terminator to be able to have to eat every once in a while to maintain his flesh, his human flesh. And so apparently he was supposed to be eating a candy bar, like the whole wrapper and all. And I guess people like hated it. So he had to take that out of it. And then Arnold Schwarzenegger's favorite film of his own is this one. He also delayed filming for 2 days by insisting that his leather jacket was not manly enough for him. He wanted it to be manlier. And then, let's see. Peter Kent became Arnold Schwarzenegger's stunt double from this movie on for at least the next couple of decades. And James Cameron's voice has been heard 3 times in this movie, one of them being the answering machine as her date that canceled on her, and then a manager at the motel. That's it.
Cool.
Sorry.
Awesome.
Cool.
No.
It's time now for final judgment. Are you ready to rubber stamp this bitch? Here's the final judgment.
All right, we're gonna whip through this, baby. We got. All right. This is the time where we talk about how well the movie holds up, and let's see. Let's start with Steve.
I think it still holds up, but that's like I said. I've got a weird love for that look of a movie, so I watch it and I'm like, I wish they kind of made him like this still. I just watched the Ant-Man trailer the other day, and it looks like CGI nonsense. I'm like, what is this? It's like a video game. Yep. But the soundtrack and everything else, it's just mind blowing that they did that with. We say only $6 million, but that's cheap for a movie that scope. You think it would be way more money than that, and I still love it to this day. I just think it's a great movie. I like Michael Biehn is great, and I love Schwarzenegger back then when he was doing all these action films. I still would recommend this movie to anybody.
Super.
Awesome.
I'll go. So it holds up. It's a classic. It's a classic not because because it kind of set the standard for a lot of other science fiction, particularly time travel films, but also because the storytelling is impeccable. It is the story of Sarah Connor, who gets thrust into a situation and she must adapt. Cameron has a way of making situations worse and worse and worse and worse, which he's really good at, as well. It's another example of that, where you think you get out of a situation, but instead creates more problems. So it's quick storytelling, hour and 47 minutes for such a scope of a movie, and it doesn't feel like he doesn't skimp on it, and he's able to get everything done. So no, it's a really good piece of work. Yeah, it looks dated, but I think now we're nostalgic for stuff that looks dated. So so that's that. So it's old enough to come back around again. I'll go to Mel.
Yeah, so to me it looks kind of dated too. But not as bad as I remember it being, and the special effects, they had what they had back then. A lot of it looked really good. Like, I think the robot looked really good, and when he's walking around with the robot, half face and skin looked really good. And then, I would recommend it to anybody too. I think it holds up.
Okay.
All right. I will go because I'm the only one left. So I'm going to say absolutely it holds up. The special effects do not. We've already agreed that they were just like, they had what they had. The story itself, though, I think would grab anybody who likes, anybody who can at least semi-take a sci-fi movie will love this movie.
Mm-hmm. It all goes back to story, right? It goes back to story.
Yeah.
You don't have the story, then all that CGI nonsense doesn't work,
Agreed.
Right.
100%.
So
I want to say one thing. My husband's never seen the Terminator after all these years, and so I made him watch it with me. And I told you he doesn't like old movies, and he doesn't like sci-fi, and he liked it.
Good.
Nice.
See?
All right.
There it is.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's proof.
That's proof.
All right, man. I want to say thank you once again to Steve Scarpetti for joining us today. Just if you can remind people how to, listen to you and whatever.
Yeah, we're at 94.1 on the dial. Make sure you tune into us 3 to 7 every day. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. I'd love to do this again sometime. We can be a little longer. I had some family circumstances this weekend that popped up, so I apologize for that. But if we can do it again, I'm a massive fan of movies. So anytime I get a chance to talk movies, movies and music are my two things. So anytime I can talk about one or the other, you will have a hard time shutting me up. So
excellent.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Steve. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
The timing was good. You kind of kept us on track, so that was good.
Yeah. Just like to thank Steve Lavoie for our intro and our sounds and stuff like that. And also I'd like to thank Draco and the Malfoys for our theme music. And please like this video, rate, and subscribe to our channel, please. And my name is Jay Fortier. On the behalf of Chris and Melanie, I'd like to thank you for checking out the Film Crickets here. And until next time, movies may not age like fine wine, but we drink it anyway. Bye.
Chirping about movies.